Should our attorney be up here somewhere, folks? Should our attorney be? No, throw it out there. You was taking in the middle. Whatever. Okay.
What's our society?
Rex. Set the table. Yeah. It's Chuck, so give me another one. Do you have much for the BZA? Nice. Yeah.
Put you in the spotlight. I didn't make one of the get on the table. I just think we want to wait for you.
It's long. Tonight? Was there
Right now.
all right. How we doing? Carol, what was that? We can't accept stuff. I'm sorry. I'm just arguing about this. What was it? Yeah, mine says I. I'm telling you, just oh my, he's good there. You tell him, man, they never. Zach, where we go? You don't realize. Martha was again. Son of that. She was my right hand. Marcia did more about living in Mississippi more than I. No worries. I am. Hey. They've got no locals over here. I'll give you one. So, there are a couple of things different ways to do that. Then you can go back and ask for an addition if there's a police. So, you can transfer money, one account to another account. So if we want to do that, I don't think you have to go to the county council to ask. But maybe you have to get permission or just approval. Oh, if you go in the red, then you can go ahead and do it. And the account will be in the red, and then you can leave them. Tell me what you're looking for, money-wise. He's talking about you don't have enough money in the account, you need additional appropriate, whatever. You don't have enough, so you need additional funds in that account. So what is it that you're thinking? There's an additional appropriation you can ask for. You can transfer from one account to another. You can even go in the red and then transfer money into the other. So it doesn't mean you have to stop this. So it is what it is. So he's going to do the additional appropriate out of it. I don't know if that's the simplest way to go. If we've got money in, for example, probably in our legal what, $12,000. Yeah, enough money there you can transfer. And then if you need it, then you'll get the additional.
Hey, just sit aside. Wow, I was a citizen. You can sit aside. I like that too. Get him out of here. Yeah. Well, you guys must love it. Goodness.
Yeah.
Attendance and night.
Yeah.
Mine was really family history. A lot of my family was just so And I have concerned about the materials that are coming in late. See, that Monday after the fire, it's destroyed. We are in March. Believe that. Yes, we have specific rules about that in our rules and regulations. And it says 2 days prior to the meeting. It's always been in the past to be. We got 8 hours. Friday is 2 days before actually the board. And it's going to I have an email or something now. We're going to change that the 2 days means Friday. We can improve what it could be. That's an issue we need to resolve somewhere. I know, but you do it. If we can do because there are letters. I know in this case you wanted some of those letters. Now, if we can and we've set a precedent to go out here to get something in later, it needs to be dealt with. So we know. I understand. I know you do. I just heard you tell. I don't think that's right. Well, you can drive in. I heard that we can play the 2 hours. There's Mallory. Mallory makes that. Somebody's going to have to do it. Mallory's here. And you said, I don't know. It's not looking good. It's been one. I don't know. No. It's like one of the latest last time. Yeah, everybody makes some money. Then you totally kept me about Swapping? Yeah, that was so bad. So we don't. Hey, Rob. We better say that. Yes, man. Yes, Sonny back there. I'll be on. We'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4. President, so this meeting over. What's happening? President wages. Can we have this all?
Well,
Aye.
Sprinkle,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yep.
Cottle, House,
Yeah.
Lawrence, Hedrick, Hicks,
Here.
Monroe, whoops. Mallory.
Here.
Knuckles. Todd. And Maynard.
Here.
Crouch.
That's a cross. Number three, approval of the minutes. I'm not gonna ask Ryan tonight since we got a lot on our mind plate tonight. You guys had a chance to read the minutes and look at it. Did any of the members have any questions on the minutes?
I went through them. They seem to be pretty accurate for what it could write or understand for the mic. So I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Do we have a second? Second. Take call.
Bothwell.
No.
Frankel.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Crouch.
Yes.
Mallory.
Yes.
Nuss. I'm not getting somebody.
I'm sick. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but no.
Oh, we got minutes. You just got another.
Is it out?
Yeah. We would have enough. Approve.
Exactly. I think it is.
So. So we gotta have the majority, Brenda.
Yeah, because I need your vote on this, so. And
You need to vote.
Jim, I need,
I want to know if you want to approve the minutes that presented.
Yes.
we've got 6 yeses and 1 no, so. So we need Rex to vote.
Yeah.
So we need your vote.
I'll say yes.
We have 7 yeses and 1 no.
Let's go to number 4, public hearing. Ryan, would you give the document for us? Number 4, document 03Z22.
Have them come up.
Yep.
This is public hearing docket 03Z-22 for Margaret Chisera. If you could sign on. This is a petition for a zoning map amendment for rezoning from the current industrial one, I-1 district to residential suburban in order to construct a single-family residence. One of the things I noted, this is, even though this is zoned I-1, it has had a house located there for the last 50+ years that was just recently demolished. Areas surrounding are agricultural, residential, suburban, residential 1, And again, industrial one to the north. In looking at the property, they are wanting to put a house back on it. The home would not be allowed in an I-1. So they are hoping to rezone it to allow for the construction of a new home.
So any of the board got any questions for him? Got any questions? Any questions? I'll move on.
It's a rated industrial because of the, kind of the gas terminal there or anything like that, was it?
There is a gas terminal to the north. But this property has long, we got to pull up the zoning map. Again, it's had a house on it for 50 years, has a septic on it. It's, yeah, I think it's another one of those where it's got zoned, but we're not exactly sure where.
It's still safe to have it back close to the
Yeah.
gas terminal.
Yeah, like I said, we went out and looked at it. There's no issues with it. And RS would be a buffer between industrial and residential too.
Any of the members got any questions for him?
Nope.
You may sit down then.
Thank
Do we have anybody against? In the audience?
Question first. Mr. Malott, what is your recommendation?
I would put forth a favorable recommendation.
Do we have anybody in the audience against?
What's the location? In the city or in?
This is at 526 North 8th Street, Upland, Indiana. It is county property. It's a rezoning. It's not a variance or a special exception.
Any questions? Any for me? One more question? Do I hear a motion? Approved?
I make a motion that we recommend or approve the change of zoning.
Second,
Aye. Me.
Brenda, roll call.
Bothwell,
Aye.
Frankel,
Aye.
Breeding,
Yes.
Crouch,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Go to number 4.3, amendment to the sign ordinance. Tell us about that.
Be 4.2.
Oh, yeah, second, okay, yeah, 4.2. Document 04Z-22.
We have, this petition is for a zoning map amendment, rezoning from the current agricultural to general business zoning district for the car sales lot with a repair shop. This is located at 3940 West 900 South, Fairmount, Indiana. It is basically located in Hackleman. I lost internet on this, right? That up there. In looking at this, as far as the zoning goes, if we change this to general business, it would be the only general business located within almost 4 miles. This would almost possibly be considered spot zoning. It is again inside the town of Hackleman. One thing that we did note is that the application was for
0.4 acres. When we pulled the deed on it, it was for both the lot that they were talking about and the side lot are together for 1.3 acres of land. There is a lawnmower shop present in Happleman. From what we can see and from what we have heard, it is no longer in operation. It was also located in agricultural, which wouldn't allow retail. But again, I do not believe the lawnmower shop is open.
I was there today and it is not.
Yeah. The picture on Elevate makes it look like it's open, but if you go see it up close, it is not. What my notes were on this were, it would be new construction for Happleman. But the other side of it is there any feedback in Happleman? We did receive a petition from town members not in support of this rezoning. And we've also received a letter that is not in support of the rezoning. We kind of look at it. I do not believe it is within the development standards. And that would be considered spot zoning for the most part. So staff recommendation, again, a favorable recommendation.
Anybody got any questions for the guy?
What was they gonna be doing? What kind of noise?
And how they're running houses with it. They are wanting to bring in a car sales lot with a repair shop.
Okay.
With a what?
Repair shop. Car shop.
How close is it to the nearest resident?
Next door.
To somebody that's not a participant?
Yeah, if you look on the pictures, the home directly, there is a home directly to the west of the property.
Anybody else got any questions for Ryan or?
I'd like to comment on that if possible, because it's like,
I would allow the petitioner to speak on his behalf first.
Anybody else got anything you'd like to say?
Well, I'd like to do a car lot, sales car lot, but used cars. I mean, I like to keep something simple. Just, I'm not gonna get into any rehauling. Maybe just something resales. That's all it's gonna be.
Anybody got any questions for him? Any questions? Let me sit down. Anybody against it, like to speak? Please come up, sign your name. Tell us your name and sign the.
But this, since it's spot zoning, would have been better to go to APC April exception rather than.
I have my paperwork, the docket number is what?
Document number was 04Z/22.
Thank you.
I'm listening on to the meeting for the solar farm.
State your name and where you live.
Name's Tom Bullander, live at 3840 West, 900 South, right next to the property in question. And I just don't, it's zoned for agriculture and that's what it needs to be zoned for, not business. I've got a tile ditch that goes through that property. And I just don't care for buildings to be built on it, jeopardizing the tile ditch. It's already overloaded the way it is. And I just don't need a business next to my house like that. So.
Anybody got anything they want to ask him? May sit down.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to come up and speak?
For or against or comments?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
My turn?
or against?
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, my name is Catherine Ellis. I do own a joint property to the west, right up to it. This property that he's talking about has had buildings on it. It's had house, garage, they burnt. And it had been developed for that, for residential. And the town of Hackleman didn't get there by accident. It got because there was businesses. There used to be a grocery store, and there used to be the lawnmower, the gas station. That's why we have a little community called Hackleman. It's not, and they're dying. These little communities are just dying out. And I think there's only one business might still be there. I'm not sure why the permits were granted, but it's on the corner next to my house. It's a great big humongous pole barn real close to the road. And there's a contractor works out of that. So there is some type of a business activity still goes on there. And I believe Gus is just being honest with you as to what he wants to do with this. And I think new business in the area would give new life to the area. And I'm sure a lot of his sales would be like internet sales, that he set up a business where people could see him over the internet, and it wouldn't be like traffic or anything like that. And if there was some objection to the neighbors, there could be fences put up or something like that. The other thing is, it's agriculture. If it stays agriculture, he can put any kind of animals, any kind of fences, anything he wants there to do with agriculture, right? The stinkiest, noisiest animals that he can put there if he can't get this business. Is that correct?
Center agriculture.
I've been through this before. Now the lady thinks she's my best friend. But that's what I would have done if I hadn't got my pole barn I was going to put up. So I think that's just it. I'd like to stay a little community. You've got, there's a Radley on over, it died out, the school went out, it died out. But I can remember when I'm old, I'm really old. I can remember when these little towns like Rigdon, Radley and all those, they had stores. You could go and buy hardware. You could buy chickens at these stores and stuff. It was like, the big box stores just put them out of business. And I think Gus could, I think he would do it with very consideration for every neighbor around there. I found him to be a good neighbor and true to his word. So that is my comments. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak?
Just real quick, a little clarification, that the house on the corner, that is actually a complete remodel, that they've added a garage and a pole barn on it.
I understand that. I've talked to that owner, work out of it.
Yeah, but we still haven't done a final on it, so.
Yes. Because after all, I've been through with some of this stuff. I know Brenda very well, because we're very good friends for about 20 years.
Right.
But anyway, I could never have got anything put up like that close to the road, that big, and picking up that much of his property. It would have been just impossible, definitely nothing.
Let's move on.
So,
Speak your name and address.
Karen Hoheimer, and I live next door to the part of the They live across the street, okay? They have depreciated my value to my home because they have animals, they have trash all over in the yard. And I even got pictures on my phone that I went and took yesterday because they are so bad. My dad is the one that owned the Snapper building and the gas station, which have not been in service for over 11 years. I'm going to start tearing down those buildings because they're starting to look a menace to the community. And I'll never put a business back in those. So I've even taken it out of the business up at the Treasury Department. So if that's what they're going to go on, that's not right because they're no longer a business, just buildings. I don't want that same mess, and now I'm going to have to try to find a committee to make them clean their yard up because it's depreciated my property. And if you'd like to see the pictures, they're on my phone I just took yesterday. So.
We can't see the picture right now.
Okay, but that's my complaint. I don't want that side of the road to look like this side of the road.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak before I close? We're done. Does the board want to discuss anything between ourselves?
Yeah, just to repeat.
No. Do you, sir? Got anything you want to say before I close it? What the people said?
Sure. When you said, neighbors next to, the only house that is really next to it, it's, the house. Everything else, if you see on the map, like it was there earlier, it's, we're talking about at least 300 yards, at least, if not more. So, I mean, right next to it, yes, but there's plenty of an empty lot in between. I just like to say that.
Board, you got anything they like to discuss?
Does the drainage tile run through this property that services the neighbor?
There's a big state tile out by the road. Right at 26, yes, right straight across from, his house is straight across from the property on the south side of 26.
Public thing is closed. We got any discussions?
And that property,
We're done.
that property also has.
And we're done.
septic.
Let's just
Okay.
press the board. Anybody else?
I move that we move this to the next month and get some pictures of it, bring it back.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Got a second? Roll call. Then.
Bothwell,
No.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reedy,
No.
Crouch,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mary, Todd,
Yes.
four yeses and three nos.
Not a quorum. Do we have any other suggestions?
So how many names are on the petition there that are against it that you have there? Are they all local residents to that area?
100 south, 900 south, 200 west. So we have 10 people who have signed it. Most of which are on 900 south, 200 west, 900 south, 900 south, 500 west. This is located on 900 south, so it does appear.
What's the board want to do?
Mr. Chairman, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. what the board want to do. Got a motion for anything?
Mr. President, have we closed the public hearing?
Yes.
We did do that.
I did that.
Thank you.
Sir, that's what I was done talking.
I do have a picture.
We have a motion for anything?
What is your recommendation once again?
Well, I put forth an unfavorable recommendation
Unfavorable.
due to it being spot zoning.
We got a motion?
We'll see how far I'll make a motion that we do not grant the change of zoning.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Brenda?
Bothwell,
Yes.
Brinkle,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Crouch,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
also.
So it's passed. For the denied. Now we'll go to 4.3 amendments to the sign ordinance, digital sign. Want to tell us a little bit about that, Ryan?
Should have a copy of the digital sign ordinance. Again, we brought this up and discussed it last September. We moved it forward, but then got into solar and never came back to it. We just had another situation last month in BTA to where we had a original sign wanting to be installed in Sweetser. As we talked, right now, our current ordinance for animated digital signs would not allow animated or digital signs anywhere in the county with the exception of Central Core, which is downtown Marion. So what we are proposing is to put together a digital sign ordinance that will work with those out there, since we already have numerous digital signs out there that will put limited regulations on it for brightness, changeability, that sort of safety. You know, the questions that we had coming into it was the last. If we look at the last page, was the land use or sign use tables. Those are proposed. They would allow for digital signs in our public zoning by special exception, so we would take them on a case-by-case basis. The question would be, do we want to allow digital or animated signs in any residential type areas? Question being, in the Sweetser case, the church over there was R3 or
That was R3.
yeah. I think it was located R3, but actually on Main Street. That was for consideration. Again, at the land use table, are we okay with that? You know, and any questions or comments or changes you guys would see for that?
Any questions?
I want to see what the public says about it first and then make some comments. This is a public hearing, right, on this?
Yes.
You got anybody from the public that likes to speak again for this sign ordinance? Do we have anybody against the sign ordinance want to speak? Close the public to the public. Does the board has anything they want to talk about it, changes they want to make, or anything?
Reading through it, I didn't see, I think it's pretty well rounded. I know the sweeper situation, I mean, yes, the council did vote to allow it because we knew digital signs were not allowed because we don't have an ordinance for it. So they went before the BZA, it was tabled basically, and then they withdrew waiting the outcome of this. I don't think we as the council, we were voting, realized that it was R3, that it would be, actually there'd be two exceptions at that time, not knowing it really. But I do have I think it needs to stay out of residential areas. So the way it's set up, the tables, I think it's fine. So if they were to anybody, anywhere, would have to go get a special exception, right?
Right.
I think that would be appropriate. Because I don't think we're open up to anywhere residential and somebody in the middle of a subdivision puts a nice old fancy sign out there advertising the favorite college team or something like that. So I think the way it's written, I like the way it's written.
Anybody else? Anybody else got any question? Do we have a motion to accept the sign on? Place written.
So I think the one where you had in red was anybody that's out there that currently has it, they're basically grandfathered in, but then they should try to establish and follow the standards as far as the amount of flashing, shining thing. That would be the intent that they would do all in line with the use of it.
Right.
Not that they would have to.
Well, our hope is that our code enforcement officer doesn't have to go after 400 signs.
Right. Right.
That's the intent, is
And
that
then if
this is something that we would recommend that they follow.
Right. And a lot of it is related to safety. So if the sign is actually calling a safety issue, it can be cited.
Right.
To correct.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept amendment to the sign ordinance for digital display signage.
We have a second.
A second.
A second roll call.
Bothwell,
I'm not knowledgeable enough in the area to make a real statement, so I will abstain.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Crouch,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Seven.
Now we're at 4.4, solar ordinance. Last meeting, we set an ordinance that we wanted to bring up to the public hearing tonight. Most of you know, at the door, we have given the rules, how things are going tonight. Brenda, do you have a stopwatch or anything? A phone, it's gonna. Okay. And we're gonna move the ordinance on. And we did this. APC did it in joint with the BZA. Because the APC had to say that we felt like it affected the BZA. And tonight, since the BZA helped, I'd like to ask Ed step up and tell us about the ordinance.
Okay. Mr. President, would you go through the rules of the public hearing?
Nice. Will you read this?
Speaker. Mike. Rick, speak to the microphone so we can hear.
Okay.
Several people out here. You got a microphone there. Let's use it.
It's not projected out. The small microphones are only for recording. The only one that sound is the one right there.
Can they speak louder, please?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can't hear four.
Can't hear them? Okay.
I'm not sure I understand the rules. Have you stated the rules for this open hearing?
Did you read them, Ryan?
I hand them to you. You got my copy.
Oh, I got your copy. Present by the petitioner. Where it reads 6.6.31, the petitioner will get 15 minutes. The opposition gets 25 minutes. Rebuttal by the petitioner gets 10 minutes. And then that's what we're doing tonight.
Okay. Are we going in like 3-minute units?
Yeah.
Per speaker?
Yes.
Okay.
It might take no time.
All right. When you're doing an ordinance, one thing that the board considered was, how does it affect the people in the area? Do the people in the area have tolerance for an ordinance? You want to make sure that it promotes the public health, safety, comforts, moral convenience, and general welfare. And otherwise accomplishes what you need and accommodates both parties as much as possible. So what we set out to do with this ordinance is have hearings with the public, find out what their tolerance was, find out what we could do to have solar, but also protect the residents from their land being devalued, their homes being devalued, and that it wasn't a nuisance to them as well. So that was kind of the objective. We had already seen in other counties where they did not have a very good ordinance to protect the residents. And the solar company moved in close proximity, surrounding houses, surrounding whole small towns. And then there was great upset in the community that they didn't know ahead of time what was going on until it was on their doorstep, so to speak. Plans were being made, plans were passed, people were upset, lawsuits ensued, those kind of problems. We wanted to avoid as much of that as possible. Yeah. So we developed this ordinance, we worked on it. We found another community's ordinance that had almost identical, the things that we were looking for. And it was well written and it was ready to go. So we contacted an attorney and had him rewrite it for Grant County. And it had things in it that specifically the residents wanted for the protection of their property, which was a 1,320-foot setback from the primary residence. That's from the house to the solar panels. Now, 1,320 feet, that may not mean anything to somebody, but that's a quarter of a mile, just so you can kind of get a gauge of what that is. Now, these solar farms, some of them may be massive. Some of them may be over 1,000 acres. Now, and they may be up to 20 feet tall.
3 minutes.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'll wrap it up quickly. We did what we could to protect the residents, and we put forward an ordinance that also protects against things that you wouldn't expect, like panels being made with slave labor, making sure that it's safe. The wiring in the ground is to be buried 60 inches deep, and it's to have a 36-inch mesh. At 36 inches down, there's to be a warning mesh so that anybody digging would know they might hit high power wires. And we would appreciate it if you would move this forward with an affirmative appeal to the commissioners that you would like this passed the way it is. I thank you.
Thank you, Ed. this time. Okay. Okay, if we start out as the people for support. Okay, first, we're gonna start now. I'm gonna start with the first person. Linda Morrison, if I got it right. Morgan. Come up. You get 3 minutes.
Hey, I'm Linda Morgan. I have a list of things I went through and I would like to have addressed in the ordinance. Okay, but one of the first things is there's no fee schedule set yet. Is that something that's going to be determined later?
I,
Okay,
where we fell on that was, I believe, 10,000 for the last that we've done was 10,000 for the application fee and $1,000 per megawatt on the commercial. That was the last we addressed it.
okay. And then in here, it talks about the 1400 series on the development of the plan application review. And one of your previous notes was the authority that's given. And I don't see where that's been determined. So the authority of who gives the yay or nay still needs to be determined. And this is a little thing, but it might get bigger. The thing about the slave labor is that, you know, we're asking them in the ordinance to give proof that it's not, that things aren't made with slave labor. However, does that mean all components or does that mean just the panels? Do we need to be more specific? Do we care? And then there's another one where you're wanting, what's the word we're using here? Like the guarantee money of $1 million per contingent area. Thank you. What he said. They're putting a lot of money into these farms. And my question is that amount enough? Because that's to make sure they do what they're saying they're going to do. And maybe $1 million doesn't mean anything to them. I got two more things. One more thing. Who determines the minimum hedge height for the boundaries?
Time up, Brian. Time's up.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, we were.
Don't be the 10.
This is against.
Yes, against.
4-6. Okay.
60 days before.
Okay. This is voting it. We're talking with the people who supported the application. So that's support.
No.
This is support. This is against.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's going okay. Okay. The next person is Eric Wright, if I say it right, Paramount.
Eric Wright, 81 East Fairmount. I want to just encourage to support this ordinance. Ed was mentioning here a second ago that we have looked at Adams County's ordinance and
basically adopted that, maybe made some amendments, but the setback is 1,320, I believe, is that correct?
Yes.
And so that's what I would like to see in this ordinance. Definitely on the panels being made here in America. You know, one thing Mr. Biden campaigned on 2 years ago, that when he told the coal miners that, hey, your jobs are going to be gone, or you're going to make solar panels now. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily happening in the United States. A lot of these solar panels are made in China. I am under the understanding that, excuse me, one company in Ohio is either starting or getting ready to start to make solar panels. So this ordinance is not to say no to solar or to green energy, but it is aggressive setbacks, I admit, but it's not to say no. And so what we're trying to say is, you can come and do solar, but these are the rules that we've established, and we want American-made solar panels. I think that's very important, you know, if we're going to have these appear in our community. But I am for agriculture. I am for keeping farmland to farmland and not necessarily green energy. That's the way I feel about it. I'm probably looking at it more of a selfish standpoint, because I don't want to compete against solar farms that are paying $1,000 an acre to a landowner. I can't afford that. So I prefer to keep the farm ground as is. With current conditions going on right now in Russia and Ukraine, you know, there is going to be a food shortage this year. Ukraine produces 40% of the wheat globally, and we're going to start to see that coming down our pipeline this summer. And so when you add solar on top of that, because there's always going to be world events going on in the next 30 plus years, and you start throwing at solar farms and taking agricultural land out of production, then you're going to have more of a food crisis going on. So these are long-term effects that we need to really investigate and think about when we sign up a 30-year, a 60-year lease with a solar company. So that's just what I have to say.
Thank you. Next one. Jacqueline Sheets, isn't it? Jacqueline Sheets of Matthews, if I'm saying it right. Okay, to read the handwriting.
My name is Jackie Sheets, and I hope that you will approve this ordinance. It is very well written. Thank you.
Tim, Nick, or how do you say your last name? Muncie? Okay. Carol King, it looks like, from Swayze.
Carol King from Swayze. First of all, a little bit of history about solar. 2006, in the United States, we had 10 that year. Our wonderful government in 2006 passed legislation making it very profitable for solar construction companies to build them. And by 2017, we had 1,700 big solar installations. By 2019, over 2,500. And if you've looked around in our state, they are everywhere because it's a big moneymaker for them. You know, the landowners have a right to use their land as they choose. But the people involved in the solar and the people participating in the solar are going to be a very small minority in this county. This county has over 60,000 people. 30, 40 people maybe with the solar. We should have the right to say how far I want my house to be away from solar. I like the 1320. A lot of people will not. But I think each and every one of us has to ask, if I am in my house, how far away do I want that solar panel from my view? And personally, the farther away that is from Swayze, the better I'll like it. But thank you. I have known more about solar since October. Give Ryan a lot of kudos because he was a resource for information. I've read ordinance 4, 5, 6, maybe 7. So this ordinance, I would be in favor of seeing it passed. And I hope you will move it forward so it can be considered. Thank you.
Randy Atkins from Fairmount.
I guess what I'd like to do is express the flexibility that I believe, I'm an educator, so if I'm speaking loud, I don't think anybody will have trouble hearing me back there. The flexibility that this ordinance holds, I want to make sure that we see that within this ordinance, that it's not just totally conceived as being something that's against solar. If you look at page 3, if this is my understanding of this, it appears that any event that a university or somebody that wanted to build solar for their own private use, but didn't necessarily meet the requirements, could go through a process of having exception to that.
Right.
Is that? I'll keep going. We got 3 minutes. The other thing I'd like to stress is that Grant County has a comprehensive land use policy plan. And on page, I think it very distinctly shows how this ordinance applies to the current plan that Grant County has in place. Page 5, criteria for special use approval. Talks about the Grant County Comprehensive Land Plan. And I appreciate the fact on page 7 that any development is required to have a public hearing so that we, as the community of Grant County, can be informed of the developments in the process that are taking place. Page 7. Something that's very important is page 8 and 9 when it talks about setbacks. It states that a non-participating landowner has the ability to waive the established setbacks so that if somebody does not feel as strongly about somebody else in regard to how far those panels are going to be placed from them, they can, in writing, change that. Is that my understanding? Okay, I think that's important, that we are giving that flexibility for the landowners. I think I'm done. Thank you very much. This is a wonderful ordinance. From my experiences through the process that we've taken place, I strongly suggest you support this. Thank you.
Andy L. from Fairmount.
Rex, this Ellis, as stated from Fairmount, Indiana. Thanks for letting me, giving me an opportunity to speak. And I too am in support of passing the ordinance as it is written. And, you know, we've talked a lot about this over the past month, 6 weeks or more. I think more of us would have shown up sooner if we'd have been aware of it. So we're kind of trying to get ahead of this before it gets ahead of all of us. The decisions we make are going to, you know, impact generations here. I looked at some of the documentation. I mean, when they come in to do these, they're minimum of 25, maximum of 45-year leases. So, I mean, this is a long time. So when you start looking at this, I think it's important to think about we're here, we need to maintain our agriculture and our natural resources. Once they're gone, they're gone. I mean, there's no way to put it back. The stuff we're putting on there is not just glass. I mean, there's a lot of heavy metals and a lot of things, toxins that we would not want to drink or eat in our regular lives. So I would encourage us to go into this with our eyes wide open. It's not just a in my backyard type thing. May not be today, but it will be if we're not careful. Once they get started, then they can use eminent domain. They can use lots of things in order to keep pushing this. I'm really skeptical that we're going to save money on this. I mean, if it was, people wouldn't be talking tax abatements if it were going to be such a moneymaker.
tax abatement means we're paying for it. So when we go to put it in, there's not going to be any tax benefit for the general folks. Like was stated by somebody here eloquently, a handful of folks that are going to benefit at the expense of others. As far as a quarter mile, that may seem like a lot. I would like it to be farther. But I mean, a quarter mile, some of us used to run a quarter mile in track, you know? And if we made 35 seconds, we thought we were getting it, right? So it's really not that far. And I think if the solar companies really care, they say they want to be good neighbors. So if they can find places that would be able to do this in quarter mile setbacks. So I think it's important for us to go ahead and approve the ordinance as written. And then lastly, I think one thing that needs to be stated, anytime you're going to put something in Grant County, it needs to go in front of the zoning board. We should not do anything to try to bypass that. We use the zoning board for everything else. We trying to put in a car lot, had to go to the zoning board. Why in the world would we not go in front of the zoning board to approve or deny a location for a 1,000-acre or more solar farm? So I just think we need to please approve as written, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
This is the end of 15 minutes. I'd like to bring up to the board. We still on the list have 3 people to like to talk. Do you want to give them time or you want to call in? Do you guys want to let them speak or you want to move on?
There's time for us.
We got 3 more.
They can speak at the other. Boss said they can speak at the boss.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to the other list then. First. We're going to let you beat on a rebuttal. Then you'll get to speak. You'll get to speak in a few minutes. We're going to come back. People against Linda Morrison from Upland, do you want to talk again?
It's me again.
You have 3 minutes.
My paper back there. The other thing on page 5, right about in the middle, I brought this up before. It speaks to a lien can be placed against the real estate. I don't know what the people were meaning when they put that in, but real estate to me is the land, and the land does not belong to the people who are going to be supposed to be paying the fees and doing stuff. So I don't know if we want to look into that. And Kyle, I think I asked you before about that. I didn't know if anybody had checked into it. And I'm pretty sure the sticking point will be the property value protection that we have a lot of pages on. So before that goes in front of the commissioners. Huh? Oh. I thought you said it goes out, but it doesn't. Anyway, I don't know if that needs to be discussed, but that's probably the only sticking point I see. Other than that, the ordinance is very good. I like it. But I think we need to make sure there's some reasonableness to the property value protection section of it. Because there's things you just absolutely can't guarantee, so. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Stephanie Wells from Indianapolis.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Wells. I'm with Hoosiers for Renewables. Our organization works to advocate, educate, and celebrate renewable energy and its benefits to communities, farmers, and residents. In relation to tonight's proposed ordinance, I'd like to speak specifically to the following. On the setbacks, the proposed ordinance requires a quarter-mile setback from non-participating landowner dwellings. This is far outside of what we've seen from counties that are open to solar development, as well as recommendations by policymakers and academics. Some examples is that Purdue Extension just today announced the results of their year-long solar and wind ordinance study project. Per that study, which surveyed planners in all of Indiana's 92 counties, the average setback for utility scale solar for the 46 counties that have ordinances is 50 feet from property lines and 200 feet from neighboring structures. The IU model solar ordinance suggests 150 feet setbacks from non-participating landowner dwellings. And Senate Bill 411, which was just passed this March, suggests default standards for solar developments. The standards in that bill suggest 50 feet from property lines and 250 feet from non-participating landowner dwellings. Generally speaking, we believe, and we think the data supports it, non-participating landowner concerns about viewshed impacts may be addressed through robust vegetative screening, not onerous setback requirements. On the property value guarantee, we understand the concern of neighboring property owners, but there is no data to support that neighboring properties in rural areas lose value due to solar development. And I have information on that I'm happy to share after this meeting. Again, one of our primary pillars is that landowners have the right to do with their property as they see fit. These developments provide viable income diversification for landowners and their heirs, allowing this land to stay in families for generations. I fear that the proposed ordinance will in fact prevent large-scale solar development, closing the door to the economic development opportunity for Grant County and the income for the participating landowners. We are happy to share more information on potential language that allows for solar development, supports property rights, and respects neighbor concerns.
Jonathan Knapp, I say it right, from Avon.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Kopp, and I'm the Field Operations Director for the Indiana Land and Liberty Coalition. We're a grassroots conservative organization focused on protecting private property rights, increasing economic development, and lowering taxes through an all-of-the-above approach to energy. I've been traveling the state for over 3 years trying to help counties avoid unintended consequences when developing ordinances. I'm not here to tell you what to do tonight, but I am here to tell you that this ordinance will not do what many seem to think it will. As written, this ordinance would be one of the more restrictive solar ordinances in the state in terms of setbacks, but it would also be one of the most lenient wind ordinances in the state. This will not ban solar development in the county, reduce the size of projects, or protect prime farmland if that is the goal here tonight. But it will just cause any solar project that comes in to be exponentially larger and more scattered than ever necessary, involve far more non-participating landowners that would never have been near a project, and create an incredible amount of acres of dead space that could not be used for anything else, which would waste far more private farmland than it would protect. This ordinance does have some good language, like banning the use of forced labor and necessitating strong screening of projects, which I want to commend you for, but it will also force any project to be as large as possible. The large setbacks may scare away a developer or two, but all a company would have to do is buy up any existing leases or get new ones and make it one giant scatter plot project. If there was enough land in this county for a wind farm, there will be enough land in the county for a solar farm with these regulations. This ordinance, as written, could end up being a lose-lose-lose for everyone involved. The people not participating in the project will have a much higher chance of being encompassed by a large project they do not want to be near. The landowners participating in the project will have their property rights restricted by a local government picking winners and losers to not even protect prime farmland. And the county will receive hundreds of millions of dollars less in investment from banning more compact developments only to receive much larger, less efficient single projects. I will say that whatever you do tonight should be your decision. I've never seen a BZA member so much as comment on the ordinance process that wasn't also on the APC. There's a reason for separations of powers in a home rule state like ours, and both unelected boards play separate but equally crucial roles. Please consider what I have said tonight while making your decision. If you'd like to ban solar, go for it, but this ordinance will not do so. If the goal here is to prevent unwanted investments from coming into the county, I would urge you to consider an ordinance that would allow the county to judge any potential project on its merits. That way, the county can receive the best deal possible on any investments that fit your vision for the county, rather than create conditions for a single sprawling, scattered solar farm that will provide far less benefit than a compact, properly sited solar farm. Thank you for your time.
I can't read the next handwriting. I think they're from Warren, Indiana. Okay.
My name is Steve Eberly. We reside at 2741 East Acres Road in Warren County, Indiana, about 2 hours to the west of everybody here. For the record, I would like to also state that the barn lot boots are in the car. I know that I'm a bit overdressed tonight. I come from 35 years in county government in Warren County, 35 years at Purdue University on the management side. Actually, I was responsible for all food programs at the university. As a county commissioner, but before that, a county councilman, I knew very keenly how much money we didn't have with a county of only 8,000 people, and it was very hard to attract new business. Your county, it appears that you do have some industry out here, and that's fantastic. And you've got great farmland out here, and that's also fantastic. The one thing I do know about having kept the farm, my farm, for 6 generations now, is everything changes. We saved that farm from tax sale with 20 sows. No one will buy the pigs from 20 sows anymore. You've got to fill a semi and haul it to Indiana packers. The point there is everything changes, and we need to understand that. Change is sometimes invisible. Your county, your net worth, just like everyone keeps track of how much money they have in the bank, your assessed valuation is a little above $2 billion, which is great. When I adjust that for inflation back to 2017, y'all are actually $183 million in the hole. What that means is taxes are going to go up, services are going to be cut. In our county, we share an art teacher, we share a music teacher. I hear a lot about what may happen or could happen as I travel across the state. However, these are things that projects and the forward-looking people can bring forward to you all. I stand here as executive director of Hoosiers for Renewables. I started this project in late 2019 after exiting county government. We did develop the wind farm. That wind farm has enabled a number of good things in our county, including new AV that's enabling a $20 million grade school in my hometown of 200 people. Everything has side effects. Every form of power generation. If I were to stand here and enumerate the list for every single thing that comes out of every way to make electricity, we'd be here all night. As to the labor issues, I wish that I could say that everything was guaranteed, that everybody had a good living wage, and we all know that don't happen. I also know as a board and as a county governing body, you sure as the devil don't have time to go out and wonder about every sweatshirt made, every pop bottle cap made, and every tire made, and make sure that it was bought from somewhere that somebody wanted it to be. I thank you for your time tonight, and good luck.
Westfall from Marion, Indiana.
Hello, I'm Mark Westfall. I live over between Lance and Hanfield, and like to farm in Van Buren Township and Washington Township. And many of you know my dad, Kenny Westfall's passed away. Probably many of you can attest to some of the things I might say, but I want to say it for the entire county because I think it has benefit. I want to echo many of the things that have already been said. This is a wonderful, well-done ordinance. A lot of people have done a lot of important things to do this the right way. And you should all be applauded. It's wonderful. It's hard to find that kind of hardworking people. So we appreciate that. I'm not a very good speaker, so I'm going to tell you a story. And throughout that story, then I'm going to poke at what I think will be beneficial. The reason I'm opposed to this is because of the setbacks. And I think the setbacks, if you look at how people farm, if you take a half a mile out of a field, you're not left with much of a field. And you take a quarter mile from the north and a quarter mile from the south, you've not got much left. When I was a kid, I grew up in Van Buren. Van Buren, we had 2 grocery stores. We had 3 gas stations. We had 4 churches. We had a couple factories. We had 2 grain elevators. And in 1965, they had a great big construction project. It's called I-69. So those engineers came to the town of Van Buren and said, hey, we'd like to put an exit here. Would you guys like to have an exit here? Oh, no, we don't want that traffic in Van Buren. So now here we are, so many years later. Now I can't attest to whether that story is true or not because I wasn't there. But my dad told me that, and I think many of you know, I hope, whether my dad would have told me the right or the wrong way about the story. But we know today there is no traffic through Van Buren from an exit ramp on 450 because they didn't put it there, because the town said no. So now, do we have 2 grocery stores in Van Buren? No. Do we have 2 factories? No. Do we have 4 churches? No, we have 3. We have 3 gas stations? No, we have 1. We can't see the future. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict what's going to happen. But we do know some of the things that we know now. We know that the revenue that would be generated by solar power is a product that will be sold outside of Grant County. That brings revenue to Grant County. We know that will affect the tax base. Look, he just spoke earlier about teachers. Look at the teachers we had to lay off at Eastbrook because my family teaches at Eastbrook. And we don't have some of those now because we don't have the taxes to pay their salaries. We don't have a lot of opportunity in Grant County to generate new business. We have one before us. I think we should take advantage of it. I think we should pray for wisdom. We should pray that if this is possible, that could benefit the county. Yes, there's going to have to be sacrifice. Everything has to be sacrificed. But it can be done in a safe way that everyone, I think, could benefit. Thank you very much. You've done a great job.
25 minutes up, Brian. 15.
13.
Okay. I'll say the name right. 5 from Landis. Emily Wilson from Indianapolis.
Good evening. My name is Emily Williams. I'm with GeneX Solar. I'm our Senior Vice President of Development, and I reside here in Indiana. I thank you all as well as the Board of Zoning Appeals for the diligence that has gone into crafting this ordinance. Listening to all the comments tonight, I'd just like to say I too agree with Ed and Randy Adkins. The thing about what Ed said makes a lot of sense. When you craft an ordinance, you want it, you're balancing the tolerance of the residents nearby. And really our message here tonight is this ordinance as currently constructed doesn't really give solar the opportunity that it could otherwise have here in the county. So we're asking that you construct an ordinance where we could assess projects on their individual merit. I think it's important that developers take into consideration every single home and residence, business, other sensitive receptors like churches and schools that might live nearby. That kind of goes to Randy's point of how we would have hearings and processes for every single one of these projects. So there is flexibility, but also on the developer that we're flexible and we make a good effort in order to work with these communities. That's on us, and we definitely want to do that. To put some of these standards into context with some of the other county standards with setbacks. Some more intensive land uses that have lower setbacks, for example, is an ammonia facility that can lie 500 feet within a residential zoning district. A commercial petroleum tank farm, 300 feet. A manufacturer of storage of explosives, 500 feet. A racetrack, 500. You have a correctional institution with no setback requirement to residential zonings, a sewage disposal or a sanitary landfill or transfer station. On the other hand, you've ranked with these setbacks a solar facility in line with a sexually oriented business and also a slaughterhouse. So I just want to put that in context with these folks that have residences near other much more intensive land uses, and we're putting solar that we build these facilities so if there is noise coming out of a transformer, that's very commercially seen out in businesses, the distribution facilities that are here near I-69. Those are the types of transformers. If you have inverters, those are all buried inside the sites that there's really no noise. It's a low profile site. We have landscaping and screening, and these setbacks make it extremely challenging for sites to be able to be developed here. On the other hand, you could be a home with an ammonia facility within closer range. So I just wanted to give that context in the greater scheme of things, and I thank you.
So we still got time.
It's 16 minutes.
Okay. James Purdy, if I say it right, I can't read the last one. Marion. James. Okay, so that's it with that list. We'll go back to the rebuttal for 10 minutes. Andy, Marion, I said right from Marion.
Andy Lyons, thank you for this opportunity. Since this is a rebuttal period, I'll primarily do that.
Okay.
In regards to the property values that were cited just a few minutes ago, those all came from energy companies because I researched them. I went to an independent source, the University of Rhode Island, not what I would call the bastion of conservatism. And they did a 3-year study on property values next to solar. And what they determined was over 3 years worth of information, that if you live within a mile, your property value was at least 1.7% less. If you lived within a 1/10 of a mile, your property value was at least 7% less. So the idea that property values will not be affected is erroneous. Those were done because they have an agenda. I went to an actual outside source. These people are economists, and they did the studies. This was Providence Journal, October 1st, 2020, an 18-month study. When we talk about these situations, we have to talk about the unintended consequences. We have a seed seller that's going to lose somewhere between $220,000 and $350,000 per year in revenue. That's one seed seller. We have a grain elevator that's going to lose over $1 million of revenue. That's one grain elevator. These are unintended consequences that we have to deal with, that we have to take into account. We have other negative effects that are possible to this area of the area of the land. What if tile destruction goes unnoticed for too long? What happens if chemicals are leaking into the water table? We have to take those into consideration. What about wildlife disruption with the fencing put up in their natural movements and habitats? And I know in 153.713 and 153.715, talking about the public nuisance of the salvage part, what happens if all of those fail? Who bears the cost if all of those fail? And the cleanup and the removal? We do as taxpayers. It says there that they can recoup by scrapping that material to recoup. The owner can. But that material is going to be 25, 40, 50 years outdated maybe. Do you think it's not going to depreciate a lot
You think they're gonna have the ability to clean that up? I highly doubt it. The lost arable land in general in our country, if you look at the map, it is lined from Canada all down through the central United States, all along prime farmland. It's already been mentioned about Ukraine, fourth in wheat exportation, third in fertilizer exportation. We've got serious issues that are going to come to effect in the next 3 to 8 months, and we're going to give up arable land. I only signed for the ordinance because there wasn't a sign that said we don't need this.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Jason White from Upland.
So I agree with the ordinance. I mean, I don't want them, period, but we gotta have rules and regulations. To kind of speak what she spoke about, she was talking about racetracks and fertilizer, whatever. All those setbacks, those bring jobs to the county. Solar panels don't bring any jobs to the county. They speak about solar farm will grow because the setbacks are too big. They'll have to get more acres, but what they don't tell you is we're not going to give them more acres. So that farm probably not going to go in because we're not going to give up any more acres for them. Everyone that spoke for the solar tonight's not from Grant County. The guy that spoke from Warren County, how much farm revenue was lost in your county for all your panels and your wind? Guy that spoke said can't see the future, so this is a big deal. I got a little grandson, 5 years old, is going to come in the farm. He may not have the opportunity if we think solar is the next best thing, and that's the way we got to go. So, I mean, this is a big deal. It's every generation, the ones that are farming now, ones we haven't even met yet. We got to make sure we get this right. And this ordinance, I think it's a step in the right direction. Thanks.
Judy Hartman. Okay, go ahead. Do you want to take her time? She's giving it up.
Randy Atkins, I guess what I struggle with is the fact that the solar companies, I don't believe, are recognizing the opinion that the residents in Grant County have and how we feel about this. Secondly, if property value guarantees, if the solar company says that that's not a problem, then why do they care if it's in the ordinance? Mr. Everly, I guess if the county council is listening based on your tax revenue situation, I would encourage our county council not to give the solar company an abatement because we're going to need the money. Mark, I love you, man. I want to talk about I-69, the only undeveloped intersection in Grant County of I-69 is State Road 26. I own 6 acres there. I very strongly believe that on the east side of 69, on both sides of State Road 26, are going to be filled with solar panels. Due to the outside owners of Grant County that we strongly believe have signed up with the solar company. So I too am concerned about not allowing the last undeveloped intersection in Grant County to be consumed by solar panels. Thank you.
Okay, at this time. This is the end of the list. I close this hearing this time. It's time to make a motion. A motion will be a favorable, non-favorable, or no recommendation at all to the commissioners. I'm asking anybody, they want to make a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we pass this recommendation along as a favorable recommendation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, roll call.
Frankel,
Yes.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Breedy,
No.
Crouch,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mallory,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
six.
Six. Six. Okay.
Rex.
What is the result?
It's 7-1.
We have seven. 7-1, moves on. At this time, I'd like to thank everybody in the audience for coming, participating this with us for about the last 6 months or more. I thank everybody who sent letters in, who had concerns. They were sent out to the board. They have a chance to look at them. So at this time, if there's nothing more on the agenda, I ask for a motion. Yeah.
It might be, I don't think everybody understands what the process is here.
We tell.
Could we,
If the process on this that you don't understand, what he's asking me about also asking. When this goes to the commissioners have the chance to look at it, see what they want to change in it. They will send it back to us after they have so long, send it back to us. We get a look at it again. We get to make any changes we want to make, send it back to them. At that time, it's in the commissioner's hand, and they can make whatever changes they want. That will be your ordinance. To make that clear. In this meeting.
Going to, I was a little bit, going to the commissioners for the April folder?
Yes. Accept this ordinance. That's what we voted on. That was accepted. So this will go to the commissioners. So long to look at it, bring it back to us. So long to look at it, send it back to them, and they have the final decision on it.
We gotta do this. How can we request that the commissioners provide an opportunity, a facility of this size for us to have the opportunity to respond to them as well?
Yes. Call them up, ask them to do it. It's not up to us, it's up to you guys want it, it's up to you to ask them what you want, tell them what you want. Huh?
yeah.
They can make a recommendation, they should do that, but don't mean they will do it. I'm not saying they won't, because I don't know the commissioners.
On back to convention. They want to get these.
I don't.
Mr. President, if I interject something. The commissioners' meetings are open meetings. Okay, and according to the way an ordinance is passed, they will advertise when that meeting is, and when they will act upon it. They will receive this ordinance right away. But they can act on it at any time in 90 days.
Okay.
How is it advertised?
That's when you have to have your taxes.
That'd be up to them.
I think this year.
I think it's an advertising paper.
Usually it's advertised in the paper, ours is, and they probably do it the same way.
So Ron, do you have any suggestions on how to advertise it to us?
Not really. I think the process works fine now. It's advertised, it's in the news media, and we'll act on it accordingly.
Don't you have it on the front page of the newspaper?
Pardon?
Do you have it on the front page of the newspaper?
It's very just like.
Well, I can't speak for I can't speak for the paper, but I would say
Shouldn't you be doing the attorney's report and Ryan's report?
Facebook chat. On the phone, here.
At the bottom, yeah. Meeting's not over.
What?
You had any report to us tonight? Ryan, you have anything you want to say?
Yeah.
So I have a motion to adjourn. I think it already did. Got a second? So the meeting adjourned. Last session, substantial more. It's nice.